All right, give me just a second and I will get back to my little position at the stove, or at the table rather.
Can you see Cary behind me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Excellent. Okay. I always just wait a minute or two to make sure it's streaming on Facebook like it's supposed to.
Well, my phone shows that
Okay,
you're live.
we are live. We are live. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, welcome to the new year of Hollywood Kitchen. I have been doing an Excel database of all of my movie star recipes and thinking long and hard about what the best way to kick off 2021 would be. And the more I thought about it, the more obvious it became. The answer was Cary Grant, and it was apple pie, which I think those are always going to be the answer to everything. So I have an amazing all-star team joining me today, including in Atlanta, Ruth Mundsack, who I met through the Turner Classic Film Festival, and Eats, Sleeps, Drinks, and Breathes, Cary Grant. Kellee Pratt, who teaches classic film in her native Lawrence, Kansas. And you guys can shout out your Twitter handles later because I'm probably going to forget them. And returning guest Rick Greene. You knew him and you loved him from my Laurel and Hardy Christmas episode. He is back with some jaw-dropping Cary Grant memorabilia that you are really going to just go crazy over. I know I am. So I thought we'd just get started a little bit by saying how we first discovered the magic of Cary Grant. We will make the pie, get it in the oven, and then get to Rick's incredible collection item. So let's go ahead and get started. Ruth, how did you first discover Cary Grant?
I was probably, I think, 13 years old. I was a babysitter. You know, that's what we girls did back in the day. And I think girls do, still teenage girls do that today. But one of the things that would happen in Los Angeles, I'm just hanging out in Atlanta right now, people. I'm not moving to Atlanta. I still live in Los Angeles. They would have, KTLA would have like the $1 Million Movie, Channel 13 would have the Late Late Show and things like that. And they would show classic movies on that. And I was babysitting one night and flipping around the channels around midnight. And there came the intro to Bringing Up Baby. And I was mesmerized. And it has been that way ever since. And so it's wonderful to be with all my classic film fans that I call my tribe, and to be able to celebrate Cary Grant. And I like baking, so this is really a cool thing to do. And I love that Cary's doing this series. It's been a lot of fun and something to look forward to in this time that we've been going through. So my love of Cary Grant has led me to lots of people and lots of friends. I did a virtual Cary-vention this year, meeting other fans who've been in a fan club for over 20 years. And also I joined the Cary Comes Home virtual festival this year, and I hope Charlotte Church will join us this afternoon. And I'm all about Cary, all about him.
Excellent. So Kellee, tell us how you first discovered Cary Grant.
You know, my grandmother introduced me to classic film, and one of the very first films that she introduced me to was, coincidentally, with Ruth saying this, was Bringing Up Baby. And I think I saw Bringing Up Baby and The Philadelphia Story at about the same time. I think, you know, as soon as I was enraptured with that, my grandmother knew that I was ready for The Philadelphia Story as well. And it's interesting how, as a kid that was probably middle school, maybe late elementary school, I was madly, passionately in love. I went from Donny Osmond as my first crush, believe it or not, dating myself. I think it was the big teeth. And then Cary Grant. And it's like, there was something about this guy that was just blew my mind because he was drop dead gorgeous. He was acrobatic in his movements with physical comedy, and yet he could make you cry. Like, he is this phenomenal actor, and yet he could do physical comedy like no other, and just drop dead gorgeous. So I've been in love with Cary Grant for a long time. My husband has learned to accept this fact. And I'm not saying he loves it, but he's accepted it. And so that's, you know, one of the loves that we share in our classic film community, which of course we chat about all the time. Maybe you can see one of my pictures of Cary in the background way back there. And yeah, that's how we all probably know each other.
How did you first discover Cary Grant?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, in the early 70s, my friends and I were getting into film comedy. Laurel and Hardy, Chaplin, the Marx Brothers, W.C. Fields, and growing up in Cleveland, like LA, they would often have these movies where they'd run it 2 or 3 times over a weekend. So my friend Ron Turk said, "You got to watch The Bishop's Wife. Cary Grant is in it, and he plays the harp as good as Harpo." And so we all watched The Bishop's Wife, and sure enough, damn, that guy played the harp. And maybe Harpo even coached him. But it led to Gunga Din and, of course, Bringing a Baby. And we all fell in love with Cary Grant. He was an incredible comedian, but he did everything. And later moving to LA, I joined the Magic Castle and found out Cary Grant loved magic, was a member of the Magic Castle, and was there very often, although I never saw him there in the 80s.
I think I first discovered Cary Grant on TV, like a lot of us did. But when I was in film school, I saw Bringing Up Baby and Philadelphia Story on a huge screen. And I'm always extolling the big screen experience. Seeing him on a giant screen was like just magic times 1,000.
Yes.
Because I feel a lot of these stars, TV just doesn't capture or contain what they really have to offer, you know? And so that big screen experience is
I'm thankful for the technology we do have in televisions and things today, because I recently upgraded my TV at home, and it's almost human size. I'm like, Cary, it's me.
Yeah, I'm grateful for technology too, don't get me wrong, but just to me, just sitting in a theater and seeing it on a big screen, that's always such a powerful thing, you know? And
It really is. It really is. And especially when you're in the Egyptian with all your friends, and as each name or director's name comes on screen, we're clapping and cheering, and we're just at the credits.
I think I'm just getting really weepy and nostalgic for that experience right now, you know?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
truth.
So we're going to talk a little about the recipe. The recipe for Cary Grant's pie comes from this book, and this is 125 recipes of famous movie stars. I believe this is from the early 30s. And one thing that makes me realize that it probably is from that time is that Cary Grant, a lot of times I notice the huge stars kind of get the front real estate of these books. It tends to at least be the case. Cary's on the next to the last page, and his picture is small, which says to me, this is like very early on. So, you know,
Okay.
But it's called his grandma's apple pie. And the other night when we were doing our test episode, Kellee and Ruth know 1,000 times more about making pie than I do. So they had some fabulous additions to this, because a lot of these celebrity recipes, as I've continually discovered, they don't always list oven temperatures or cooking times, or there are major gaps in the things that they offer. For example, Cary's recipe is mainly just put the apples and the sugar and some flour in the crust and bake. And it's very simple. And Kellee has got a lot to add to this. And I don't think Cary would have a problem with having some enhancements to his recipe.
Respect to Archie. I hope he's okay that I kind of tweaked it a little bit.
I think he would be. I really do.
I'm with you, Cary. I'm with you, Cary. I love recipes, and I'm reading it going, huh? Are they, what are they asking for me to do? And is there no temperature?
That's sometimes why I always insist on doing these test runs, because I don't want to just do it cold with one of these old recipes, because that's just setting myself up.
No, you'd have a total mess.
Yes. So I went ahead and brought the pre-made crust, but I know Kellee makes hers from scratch.
You.
And I'm going to set up my pie dish here and put my crust in it.
Now, I'm with Cary. I did bought the pre-made crust. I am not as talented as Kellee, but I'm going to make that a mission one day to make my own pie crust.
Just practice. That's all it is.
Should we go ahead and preheat the oven?
Yeah.
I would. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna preheat to 425 degrees, so I'll be right back.
I'm going to take out my pie crust from the refrigerator where I've had it. And by the way,
I am just finishing slicing my apples before we start the mixture of getting it all into the crust.
and if anyone wants the recipe for my version of apple pie, Cary put it on Facebook. If anybody is interested in the pie crust recipe, I'm happy to provide that to anyone as well.
And after the show is over, I will post this video on YouTube, and I'll also post it on my new little website, HollywoodKitchenShow.com, and I'll put Kellee's full recipe, all the instructions, the pictures, the whole 9 yards. So it'll be a lot of fun. Okay.
That is, this is only like my fourth apple pie that I've ever made in life. But I'm a huge recipe reader. So whenever I'm looking at a recipe, I go to different versions of things that people do to it. And so like I'm adding a little vanilla to mine. I do pats of butter, once I get my apples in. So I've just kind of co-opted a bunch of stuff, and then I throw it all in and see what happens.
Oh, and one of the, Crystal Lawler, one of my awesome friends on Facebook, she is allergic to apples. So I was telling her, I've been guessing you could probably do this, right? With blueberries, strawberries, raspberries.
You could do it with pears.
Pears. Okay, cool. Peaches. Oh man, peaches would be good. Okay, Kellee, are we gonna go ahead and make the sauce first?
I need to roll out my
Roll out your dough.
my dough. I've preheated my oven, and you can go ahead and get the ingredients ready. I'm just going to grab the sugar here real quick because the first step in the sauce is you want a half a cup of butter. You can do unsalted butter. I sub because my husband is dairy intolerant. I do this stuff, the Smart Balance, the original is important because that's the one you can bake with. You can, basically, get a butter substitute if you can't. You just have to make sure that it can be cooked. And then you put half a cup of that in the pan, and then you're gonna start to warm that up with 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour.
Flour right here. I got a little hot plate for my stovetop, so I can kind of do these things right here on the stove. So I will add the flour. I'll wait till the butter melts for a minute and then add the flour.
Now I do mine with just the brown sugar, cinnamon brown sugar with a little bit of nutmeg and a tablespoon of flour. And then I add in some brown sugar to that. I mix all of that up, and then I apply that to the apples. And I've noticed it makes a nice rich sauce to it. So when I pour it into the pie crust, it's smelling lovely. It looks really yummy.
The other night, one of my many errors the other night is that I didn't do Kellee's sauce. And as a result, my pie came out a little on the dry side. So I'm thinking the sauce idea that Kellee has is really a good one. I'm definitely going to try that.
It does help just to kind of give it nice juices.
See, the other one, the practice one.
And Ruth, your treatment sounds very similar to the recipe I have for my blueberry pie. Ruth, thank you so much for noticing my my homage to Catch a Thief.
I loved it. I loved it. I saw it. I was like, oh, that's so cute.
I thought no one's gonna get this, but I'm gonna go for it anyway.
Oh, yeah, girl, I tuned right in. I tuned right in.
One of my favorite Hitchcock cameos is
Yes.
To Catch a Thief, where they're sitting on that bus and
Yes.
he just kind of looks at him. It's just brilliant.
Yes.
Hilarious.
Can't see the thing. Okay. All right, so my butter's melting for the sauce, Kelly. So then I add the 3 tablespoons of flour, right?
Yeah, I just kind of get that warmed up to the point where you melt that butter, and then you stir in the flour to form like a paste. It should be kind of a nice thick.
Okay, and then do I add the sugar and brown sugar at the same time, or?
Get that paste. Then you add the water, the white sugar, and the brown sugar.
Okay, so I have a 4th
And then
cup
you're gonna
of.
need, and you got that. That's the. Let's see. The water is the 1/4 cup. Is that a 1/4 cup?
That's a 1/4 cup.
Oh, it just looks like a lot. Must be my perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of a real old cup too, so okay, I'll hold off a little one. Okay.
And then, yeah, the water, and then the white sugar and the brown sugar are 1/2 cup each. With the brown sugar, you want it to be packed, so you want to kind of cram it into that container.
So I'm going ahead to add all my dry ingredients, my sweet dry ingredients, and get a good mix going on. And then I'm gonna work on my crust for the bottom. I'm gonna get that all set in my pie.
Are you gonna do the hearts again?
What's that?
Are you gonna do the hearts again? Excellent.
Excited about that. That's fun.
Yeah,
And
and
last night we all 3 did a different pie. Kelly did a lattice work, which was incredible. Ruth did heart cutouts. And I just did a full top crust on mine.
If you need to grab some more sugar, I'll be right back.
Right now I'm just stirring the sauce, which is the water, the sugar, the brown sugar, the flour, here, and the butter. I'm so glad I got this tabletop thing, because honestly it would be bad if I tried to put my laptop over my stove.
So all of my dry ingredients are all in my bowl with my apples now. So everything is going to get a nice good stir, and then it'll start to make its own juice, which will be really lovely and flavorful. And just a few drops of vanilla. Just for some reason, I thought that'd be kind of cool to give it a little something, something.
I'm all for taking a recipe and making it your own. I'm definitely not a purist when it comes to the things. Okay, I think my paste is nice and smooth here. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of cinnamon and a little bit of nutmeg to mine. Stirring this all up here.
Getting a good stir on, trying to keep everything in the bowl. Keep all that yumminess.
I bet the people you're staying with, Ruth, are loving all this apple pie production going on.
Well, my girlfriend's mom, Annie, she's like a mom to me. She and I tested the pie the very night, and we had a bit of ice cream with it, and it was really lovely. And then Twin, my friend Mia's sister, I sent her home with pie because I knew I had to make another pie. So we'll enjoy this one and share it with whomever I can share it with. Because the funny thing is I'm not a big sweet eater myself personally, but I like to make stuff.
I hear you. I love sweets, but I'm not as big of a pie eater as my family basically are.
Now,
So,
I'm a cherry pie eater. Cherry pie is my favorite pie.
Oh, I love that one too. That's my favorite.
I happily make you a cherry pie if you come visit me.
Okay,
Yes, that's a deal.
that's a deal.
Cherry pie is more work because of hand pitting, but
Yeah,
but it's worth it, I think. You know.
I got a cherry pitting gadget that is kind of helpful.
I'm still working on perfecting a peach cobbler. Mia's grandmother, Miss Yarbrough, I was watching instructions, but She never measured anything. I couldn't figure out. I tried to take pictures, and she was just like, just some and a pinch and this and that. And I was trying to measure, and she takes the cup from my hand and says, "What are you doing? Just put it in."
Let me make sure my oven isn't smoking. Give me just a second.
So that's the favorite family story that I have with their grandma. Miss Elizabeth did not have patience for me and my measuring and all of that stuff.
That's the way that I cook. I just kind of know, but with baking, it's different. I need to be very specific about my measuring. There's no little bit of this, little bit of that. Although I tend to just kind of know when something is done. But I don't know, baking's a science. It's not, to me anyway.
Now, Kelly, I have a question. So I've got my sauce all mixed up here on the tabletop, got my pan here. Do I dump all the apples in here and then just pour the sauce on top?
Well, how are you gonna do your top crust?
I was just gonna do it like I did the other night, which just rolled this out over the top.
So the challenge when you don't have a more open crust, so like if you have like lattice or like what Ruth was talking about doing hearts and stuff, if you've got openings, you can pour it and it goes in. But if you don't have, so you either have to do more slits or
roll the apples in it. Roll the apples in it, Kelly.
Yeah. So in other words, you don't have to do it on the top. You could do it, just pour it on top of the apples and then do the crust.
Yeah.
It just works better with like lattice or some sort of more porous opening type of top crust.
I'll go grab a knife and do some slits.
You could kind of do some slits.
Is it safe to put in the oven if my oven still has a lot of stains of Easy Off all through it?
I mean, I'm not sure. Like, did you write it down?
I worked so hard on this, and it's still such a literal hot mess.
So you weren't able to wipe down the?
I still was not able. This is like been try number 3 of the Easy Off, and I've still got chunks of black encrusted sugar on the bottom of my stove. I've tried water, I've tried heat, I've tried cool, I've tried Easy Off 3 times. So doing
So I'm getting ready to do my crust now.
Okay, so all right, so I guess I'm gonna pour all my apples now into the pan.
Cary, dot your put holes in your crust. You get a fork, your bottom crust.
Yes, you're right. Okay, let me go grab.
Dot it with your fork.
All right, got my fork. Okay.
The key thing is for you to remember the cookie sheet this time.
Yes, that is so key. That's one thing about making giant mistakes is that you don't make them again because you've learned. Hopefully. Okay, so I'm scooping all of my chopped apples into the pan here.
You can take that. I'll make more twin. Twin, take an apple. You need to take an orange so we can look at the oranges. Was ours closed?
Okay.
Just showing that's my paste that I've got so far.
Okay. So do I pour the sauce on top again, you guys said, or just pour it through the slats?
Unless the slats are pretty open, what you can do is pour most of it on the apples, put on the crust, and then just do the little bit of remainder into the holes.
Okay, that's fine.
Coating.
Cary, did you roll? Oh, okay. I see what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm just kind of.
Yep, I see what you're doing. Yep.
That does look good.
Well, since I'm the only one not baking a pie, I can offer up to the audience a little pie fight crust tip for you. Being a Laurel and Hardy guy, I've been in quite a few real life pie fights. So what my dear friend Earl Kress and I, we found a bakery in downtown LA that would custom make us pie crusts with no yeast in the dough, because when you pick the pie up to throw it, you don't want it to crumble in your hands and run down your arm. You want it to leave your arm and hit the target. With no yeast, it gave the pie crusts that needed stiffness so that didn't happen, but it looked great when it would hit someone and crack up and all the cream and so on.
That's really a cool thing to know.
Isn't that?
It's one of the many reasons why I love Los Angeles.
I have never made a pie crust with yeast before, so that's kind of new to me. Huh.
Okay, now I'm gonna put my my top crust on top here.
Gonna do a little trim on my pie crust here so I can trim it up, and you're gonna see how nice it will look once it's trimmed up.
Okay, so I'm kind of folding up my crust here in little waves, and then I'm gonna put the slats in it so the I can pour a little bit of that sauce in there.
I'm going to show while we're doing this, I'm going to go ahead and start rolling my crust out with the cam here so you can see. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty good at this trimming thing. This really works for me. And then you save the extra dough because you can make designs with that, you know, or I've heard that sometimes people roll it out and put butter, cinnamon, sugar on those extra dough strips, and they're nice and yummy.
You know, it's interesting that you should bring that up, Ruth, because when my grandmother used to make pies, she would leave extra pie crust for us so that we could do that very thing that you just mentioned.
Yep, I know my grandma Mundsack did that when we'd be at the farm in Wisconsin. My parents are from Wisconsin. Again, I am not. I've always lived in Southern California.
This isn't quite going in the slats. It's kind of.
That's okay. It can be a little messy.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And it'll help brown the top too, Cary.
Exactly.
If you have a pastry brush, you could brush, or a little paint brush, you can brush it around or roll it around, use the back of a spoon.
Pastry brush, but that is something I will need to acquire at some point.
Yes, a pastry brush is always good because it helps with anything you want to, like if you're making ribs or something, you want to brush the sauce on something. It's multifunctional. So my apples are all nice and juicy and ready to make it into the pie pan. My bottom crust is in. I've got my little holes in there. And then I'll work on my top. Ta-da! Looking lovely.
Okay, I'm gonna wait for you guys until we all put it in the oven at the same time.
Okay.
And then once we get it in the oven, we will get to Rick and the incredible piece of Cary Grant memorabilia and do our deep dive into all things Cary Grant.
Looking forward to hearing about Rick's special artifact.
Yes.
It's pretty darn cool.
I'm very excited about this.
Yes, me too.
Ruth, you're going to flip out.
Oh my God.
Yes, you will. I can't wait.
So we might want to mention, I know the recipe is up, but we use 8 Granny Smith apples when people are peeling and coring and hopefully not hurting their fingers like Cary, but be safe.
I've never used an apple peeling gadget before, and I found one on Amazon for like $15, $20, and once I figured out how to not cut myself and bleed. It actually was very simple. You just kind of pop the apple on there, twist the handle, and in like 2 seconds, the whole apple is peeled. I was pretty amazed by it. How efficient that was once I figured out how to use it.
So I'm going to do a little cleanup as I get a nice space to get my crust out, my top going.
I'm just going to show that this is the sauce, what it should look like. And if you can see.
Here's what my pie looks like before it goes into the oven.
So pretty.
Cool.
It looks very pretty, Cary.
I know.
I'm really hoping this will turn out well. I do have to say though, even though my other pie had a lot of mistakes in the test run, it actually was really good cold.
Cary Grant.
I wanted having it cold for breakfast this morning. So, you know, it wasn't a total loss.
Very nice. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can bring this down so you guys can maybe see my lattice work.
So I've got some of those strips, but I'm gonna take that, my second pie crust, open this up, and roll it out a bit. It's lovely to have a granite top to work on because it stays cool, and it's good for rolling dough out on. And it's easy and equally easy to clean.
So Rick, you're a collector as well, right, Rick?
Big time, yeah.
So how old were you when you first started collecting?
Oh, I'm going to say around 12 or 13, I really got into horror movies and started collecting Castle films, and then figured out Black Hawk films existed, which led to comedy and Laurel and Hardy and Chaplin. And so and this is long before video. The only place you could see classic films was on television, at revival houses, or your little abridgments. Then I got into 16 millimeter and got a Kodak pageant projector and started collecting the one sheets and the lobby cards that went along with the films that I loved. This will give you some example of how long ago it was. I collected one sheet posters for all of the James Bond films in the early 70s. So I got a Goldfinger one sheet for $3.
Oh my God.
I got a Dr. No one sheet for $5.
Oh my God.
A 6 sheet for Thunderball, which is the size of a wall,
Right.
and it was $20.
Oh
Wow.
God.
Hey guys, I'm gonna make my top, and I'm using heart cookie cutters to make them, and I've got different shape size hearts. So I'm gonna go ahead and press my crust out and finish up, Rick.
See, that's one of the things about collecting. Like, by the time I was interested in acquiring stuff, this was like the 90s, and it was so expensive at that time that it was just so prohibitive, largely, you know. But it sounds like you got in on it, the ground floor, basically, of getting a lot.
I'm envious.
Yeah, no kidding.
I remember I co-founded the Three Stooges fan club in the early 70s, and the guy who founded it with me found a source for Three Stooges one-sheet posters, and we all chipped in and we all got a few. And I remember getting a Curly short, I Can Hardly Wait was the name of the short, and $17.50. I got a one sheet from the 40s. Now those things go for thousands of dollars. I wish I had bought dozens of them, but back then, $17 was a lot of money to a 14-year-old.
Kidding.
Well, let's go ahead while we're finishing up the pies. Let's go ahead and segue a little bit into your Cary Grant item. Well, you guys want to wait till you got the pies in the oven, actually, Ruth and Kellee? Did you want to?
No. I want to hear
No,
about
go ahead.
Okay, that's
Go ahead.
so. Rick, how did you find this incredible Cary Grant item that you're going to share with us? How did it come into your possession?
So I have two things that I'm going to share with our viewers, um, and I'll tell you how I came into possession of them. In the 1980s, my first wife worked for the Balaban family. And Barney Balaban, as I'm sure it's a familiar name, he ran Paramount in the 50s and the 60s. So they were still very connected with Hollywood. Her boss was one of the bridesmaids at the Grace Kelly wedding. So she helped with the writing of that book. And they were very dear friends with Mr. and Mrs. Cary Grant. So once in a while, Mrs. Balaban would loan my now ex-wife to Mrs. Grant to help with clerical things or spend a day just helping her. And then in, was it 1986 he passed away? She asked if she could borrow my then wife for a couple of weeks to deal with the outpouring of grief from the world at the death of Cary Grant. So Linda ended up working there for like 2 weeks, helping with correspondence. Mrs. Grant, who was much younger than Cary, but totally grief-stricken, needed this support, this assistance. And she was throwing stuff out left and right. She was cleaning house. So one of the memorabilia programs, things that she just didn't care about, were going into the trash. So my ex would pull stuff out of the trash and bring it home. One of the things that she brought home was this program. So this belonged to Cary Grant. Look at the unbelievable Disney Studios artwork for the cover of this program. It's a 1943 Maskers Club event, a party that Cary Grant hosted. So he's listed in here as being the Mr. and Mrs. Cary Grant were the host and hostess of this event. And it was on August 14th, 1943. June Havoc performed. Robert Armstrong, who was in King Kong, was in something called A Chinese Fantasy. Who knows what that was? And then Victor Borgia, Bergen, and McCarthy did a comedy segment. So a wonderful evening for the soldiers on leave, but this incredible artwork just blew her away. So this does not need to be in the trash. It's now in my collection for decades.
Wow.
But
That's
the
awesome.
absolute coolest thing, and Ruth, have a chair handy. It's going to knock you. Okay. Cary Grant every year kept a date book, a journal of everything he did all day long, every day, 365 days. When he got up, who he had lunch with, what studio he went to, what scenes they shot, who called him. All his phone calls are listed day to day from dawn to dusk. You know what time he went to bed, who called him. It's just crazy stuff. So all of these date books were being tossed out. It's freaking history, but she just didn't see a need to keep them. So my ex pulled 4 of them out of the trash bucket. And when we split up, she kept 3, but she let me keep the one from 1958, which is the year I was born. So I have Cary Grant's day planner from the year 1958, and you can see his name is embossed on the cover. This is it's a promotional product. I'm in the promotional products industry as my career. So this ties right in with what I do. This is from his insurance agent, Rupert Adams of Beverly Hills, because Cary Grant was a little tight. He wasn't going to pay for this if it could be given to him. So each year he'd get the new day planner. And as you can see, all of his daily events from the minute he got up are noted. So he could remember exactly what happened on any given day of any given year. So I marked a few things. I'm going to breeze through this. Believe me, it's not going to be 40 minutes of me reading about getting up and having lunch. But I did mark a bunch of interesting ones. So as things are cooking, let's go through the desk diary from 1958, written in Cary Grant's own hand. So this is interesting. Wednesday, January 1st of 1958, he wrote at the top, "To be a good year." It's so interesting because this totally humanizes someone who to us is an epic,
Larger than life.
larger than life megastar. And you'll see in here, if he's depressed, he makes note of that. If he didn't sleep well, it's in here. It's just crazy how detailed he was.
It makes him feel so human, so relatable.
I'm going to show you guys real quick the lattice work I just finished. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, that was beautiful.
I am almost done with my topping here. And I overlay the hearts so that there's no rhyme or reason or pattern to them. That. It's just my love of Cary Grant. My heart belongs to Cary.
Which is a boundless love, so there should be boundless hearts in it.
And not to mention, Rick, what was on January 18th, 1958?
All right. In January of 1958, he was in London all month, finishing the shooting of Indiscreet with Ingrid Bergman. So Saturday, January 18th of 1958, he got up at 9 a.m., had breakfast at 9:30. He had some photographs taken of himself. It was a Saturday, so he's not at the studio. He had coffee and birthday cake upstairs with Betsy. Remember, he was with Betsy Palmer at that time. He took a nap at 3:30. And then it says he went to a location in Belgrave Square. He dined with Ingrid and Stanley. How cool is that? We know that that's Ingrid Bergman, of course, and Stanley Donen, who directed Indiscreet. And then he went back to the hotel with Betsy and Ray in the Rolls. So that just shows you the detail of any given day that Cary noted. Now, in February of that year, he went to Russia. How unusual was that at the height of the Cold War? On Saturday, February 22nd, he flies with Truman, we know who that is, to the British Embassy in Russia, and he spent several days there.
Wow, that's interesting.
Can you imagine being like a movie star of that stature? You would be able to intersect with just tons of, historic figures and people of.
And they want to interact with you.
It's interesting because one of the people he has lunch with like a dozen times throughout this year is George Sanders. That's isn't that a strange, who would think they'd be tight friends, but he hooked up with George Sanders at least a dozen times for lunches and dinners.
Wow, what would it be, how interesting would it be to listen to those conversations?
Totally. Here on April the 16th, which was a Wednesday, he finishes by noting that he had dinner at 6:45 with Moss Hart, and then he wrote to bed depressed.
Oh man.
Isn't that unusual?
Huh.
I guess even Cary Grant had problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Days.
This is fun. On Saturday, May 10th, he notes that he went to a screening of the movie That Happy Feeling, starring Debbie Reynolds, and then he writes in parentheses, walked out.
Oh my.
Isn't that brutal? He must not have liked it.
Oh my God.
Then finally, on Wednesday, May 28th, it's the first mention that he went to meet with Hitchcock and Alma. Well, Alma's Mrs. Hitchcock's name.
Yes.
Then it says their house. That must have been when Hitchcock pitched the idea of North by Northwest to him for the first
Amazing.
time.
I wonder what they had for dinner when you're discussing, things like that.
Sometimes he puts that in here, but sometimes he doesn't.
Huh.
On Saturday, June 14th, he worked with Frank. Well, we all know who Frank is. And then they drove to Palm Springs together because
Wow.
Frank had a nice house out there. Isn't that interesting?
That is so lovely to hear.
This is kind of fun. On a Sunday, June 22nd, it says, awakened by plumbing trouble, got a plumber, and that night, it says, dine at home on TV, The Awful Truth. He watched his classic movie from the 30s, The Awful Truth, on television in 1958.
So cool.
I can't blame him because I think that's one of my all-time favorite films of his.
So my heart top is all done, and I'm brushing it with butter, and I'm going to sprinkle it with some cinnamon sugar, nutmeg mixture, and it's going in.
Mine is all ready to go in if you ladies are ready.
All right, mine too.
Oh.
So
I'm right behind you.
Here's
And,
mine. All blue.
okay. I'm gonna go ahead and pop mine in the oven.
Go ahead, go ahead.
And as those pies are going into the oven, North by Northwest is also baking because on Wednesday, June 25th, Cary Grant at 5:45 p.m. went to the Hitchcocks at home with writer Ernst Lehman. Well, Mr. Lehman is the writer and conceiver of North by Northwest. So it got to the point where Cary Grant also met with Hitch and the writer to discuss this incredible film they were putting together.
I just wonder, like, when you're such a big star like Cary Grant, and but with such a, with a director like Hitchcock, I mean, I'm guessing that Cary doesn't have any like influence in the script. Do you think because Hitchcock is so like, he's got it all figured out, storyboarded, he's ready to go by the time this happens, right? So I'm guessing that even someone as big as Cary Grant, he probably doesn't have much say-so at that point, does he? I mean, or does he even care? He's like, I'm here because I know this is going to work out great.
I think at this point, which this was their third or fourth movie together,
Right. Yeah.
Cary Grant completely trusted Alfred Hitchcock. I do know that he was worried, am I too old to play a romantic lead at this point? So he had self-doubts that Hitchcock,
Right.
no, I need you for this film.
Yeah.
But
Hitch was right.
he was
Yeah,
totally
Hitch was
right.
Totally
I
right.
was watching the Sean Connery movies on Turner Classic Movies recently, and I think Ben Mankiewicz was talking about how when they were working on Marnie, Sean Connery said, well, I don't know if I want to do this. I want to see the script. And then the agent said, well, Cary Grant doesn't ask for scripts with Hitchcock. And then apparently Sean Connery's response is, well, I'm not Cary Grant.
Oh,
That was kind of a
interesting.
And I do know Connery loved working under Hitchcock. That was in between From Russia with Love and Goldfinger when he made Marnie, and he was honored to be directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
So here's a cool thing that really jumped out at me the first time I went through this book years ago. On Sunday, August 10th, Cary Grant went to MCA, which means the Universal lot, to see color Dracula horror film. So he saw The Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, which was one of the very first and probably the best Hammer film of them all. But to see a Dracula movie in color was so unusual that he had to note that in his book. Okay, it's Wednesday, August 20th. We're 2/3 through the year, and it's to the point where on Wednesday, August 20th, he went home to dine. He read the new Hitchcock script. So he's reading North by Northwest, the full script, for the first time in late August. The next day, which was a Thursday, he wrote at 6 p.m. he got a call from Sophia. Interesting. We know who he's talking about. He never puts the last names of the biggies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here we are. It's the end of August, and shooting begins on North by Northwest. On Wednesday, August 27th, he had flown to New York the day before, and it says, to work location, long shots, United Nations building. Remember those shots where he's getting out of the taxi cab and walking to the UN building? So he flew to New York for them to get those. Those were the first shots of North by Northwest.
And if I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong here, but didn't they talk about how they didn't get permission from the UN to do certain shots? And so some of what we see is really like across the street and, you know, like sneaking certain things in. And didn't Hitchcock like go through the UN, like kind of, or maybe one of his people went through the UN, and then they built a set based on, you know, the renderings of that, right?
All the interiors were at the studio, and they're noted in here later, shooting UN scenes interior on the lot.
But it sounds like the UN wasn't thrilled with Hitchcock coming in and wanting to kind of, like, we're going to make a movie here.
Now, this is kind of interesting. On Tuesday, the 9th of September, they were, here's Eva Marie Saint is mentioned for the first time. He went to a preview of Houseboat early in the morning and did some interviews. And then it sounds like it was a long day for him, because at 8:15, he drove Eva Marie to Judy Garland's show. So they went to Judy Garland's show in London, and then from 11 to 3 a.m., Judy Garland party at hotel.
Can you even imagine? Like, talk about this life here. It's insane.
It is crazy.
It is absolutely crazy.
Just dropping those names so casually, like, oh, we went, you know, instead of saying, oh, we went to Bob's house and got some drinks. Oh, we went to Judy Garland's. Of course, I was with Eva Marie Saint, and, you know, we just saw Houseboat, you know, and, you know, of course, I've got this crush on Sophia, so that's going to happen. And
Yep.
it's just like, wow.
There's
I can only dream. I can only dream.
I knew you'd like this. So on Sunday, September 14th, I guess when Hitchcock wants to shoot on Sunday, you shoot on Sunday. They were after he had lunch with Eva Marie S. They're on set, and they're with platform and porters that sit in train compartments. So they were shooting the train sequences of North by Northwest. And then late that night at 12 midnight, he rarely stayed up this late. The James Masons to my penthouse for a drink, bed at 1:30 a.m.
Nice.
That was Sunday, September 14th. And the very next day, Monday, the 15th of September, head to the airport to Rapid City, South Dakota. We all know why he went there.
Right.
Because the very next day it says drive to location at Mount Rushmore. Photographed by tourists at 25 cents each. What? He charged people a quarter to take a picture with him? With him, James Mason, and Eva Marie Saint, they charged tourists a quarter for a picture. And he wrote it. He put it in the book.
He was not known for being, let's see, how do I say this? He was tight with the buck.
He was. He was. Okay, Monday, October 6th. This is big, guys. It says, leave for airport. Meet Rick Ingersoll at airport. Breakfast on plane to Bakersfield. Drive to location 50 miles away. What was he doing in Bakersfield, the middle of nowhere? Well, flying shots. On Tuesday, October 7th, it says running, etc. It's the crop duster sequence.
Running, etc. I might, run into a couple of corn stalks here and there, and
And the next few days, awaken, leave for location, lunch on location, continue shooting, running, etc. again, and then
more running.
On a lot of running in that scene, which is probably the most famous scene in the film and one of the most famous Hitchcock scenes, period. Other than the shower scene, that crop duster scene, that's it.
So iconic.
It says on Thursday, October 9th, he and Ernst Lehman went back to LA, and that night at 9 o'clock, he watched Groucho on You Bet Your Life and went to bed.
Wow.
Wow.
And then the last thing that I've tabbed is Tuesday, December the 9th, MGM Stage 29 rocks Rushmore. That's where they recreated the Mount Rushmore faces, and they shot running amongst all the heads and whatnot. Lots of visitors to the studio. It says visited stage 29, or visited stage 28. They were on stage 29 to see David Niven. So David Niven was shooting a movie on the next stage over, and he popped over to say hello to his Bishop's wife co-star. We were just talking about that. So that's my 1958 day book for Cary Grant, which details the entire shooting of North by Northwest and is one of the prizes of my collection.
Yeah. Rick, thank you so much for sharing this with us. This was absolutely fascinating.
You're very welcome.
Do you guys have any questions? Or?
Hey, Ruth, it sounds like you've got a party going on at your house.
Mia and twin is here with her twin and their mom, and they're in the other room.
Well,
My pie is in the oven. I'm starting to smell the cinnamon sugar. It's gonna be good, people. It's gonna be good.
I have my iPhone timer for 15 minutes. Do we lower the temperature in a few minutes here and then?
So after 15 minutes at 425, we're gonna wanna lower it to 350. And, I think everyone kind of varies in how crispy and firm you like your apples or really soft. At our household, we like it more on the soft end. So if people want to go, instead of 45 more minutes if you want to go 40. For us, we may even go 50 minutes or,
I
plus.
like my apples soft, and I like, so I tend to go 40 to 45 after I let turn down. So I still have 6 minutes on my 425 at 15 minutes.
I think I'm almost ready to turn mine down.
Okay.
So Rick, I think this is amazing. I love hearing his daily accounts, and how lucky is it that he did this? Because, for Uber fans like us, just a daily glimpse, a glimpse into his daily life is like gold to us.
Yes.
Well, I
So-
will tell you that Linda snagged 4 of these books. One from the 1940s, one from 1962, which was the year she was born, but she also grabbed 1986, which was his final year on this planet, and it was heartbreaking to get to the part where he's in Davenport, which is where he died. He was doing like a one-man retrospective show for film buffs, but to see the 2 or 3 months after, all the appointments that he wouldn't keep, all the meetings that wouldn't happen, and it fills you with such sadness knowing that was the day he died, and all this other stuff just didn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we're lucky though that he did live longer. That, like, you always hear these tragic Hollywood stories about people who left us way too young, way too early. And I'm so glad that he was not, say, an account of, I don't know, like Jean Harlow or something where,
or Jimmy Dean, or James Dean, or Marilyn Monroe. They had so much potential. They had so much that they had waiting to do.
Yeah. Which means, like, he was the ages that he was playing in, say, charade and stuff like that. Just we're lucky. Is the way I like to look at it, that he was with us as long as he was, because the average doesn't sound good. Maybe it's not the average. Maybe it just feels like that because they're punctuated by these tragic cases. But and then he was in business after he retired. With Fabergé, right? So that's cool that he was able to continue. And I'm sure his daughter Jennifer is especially glad that he had a long life so that she could have Dad around as long as she did. And that he parented, that he had that life as well. So
once he retired, he from filmmaking, the what was the name of that last film? It was he was an older gentleman, and I can't think of it, but it was around 1962 or 63, and he continued to be quite involved with business. He, as I mentioned, was quite a loyal member of the Magic Castle, which is a private club in Hollywood, and he would go there once a week and bring friends and entertain them at the castle, where you had gentlemen, suit and tie, ladies dressed up. It's like old-fashioned Hollywood, not now because of COVID, but it will be again. And so there's a funny story where he was waiting for some guests to arrive. So he was out in front of the building, and a car pulled up, and some older gals got out, and he very nicely opened the door for them. And one leaned to the other and says, "Emily, the doorman looks just like Cary Grant." And he thought that story was hilarious. He told it often to friends.
By the way, I think the film you're thinking of is Walk, Don't Run.
That's it. Walk, Don't Run.
Okay.
Should we open it up for questions and see what people are saying, or if they have any questions for Rick? Maybe some dates that they might like him to look at in 1958 to see what Cary was doing.
We're getting some questions here.
Hey, Rick, I'll go first. My birthday is September 20th. What was Cary doing on September 20th, 1958? Even though I wasn't born yet, I still had some time.
Well, that was a Saturday, so he got up at 7:30. He met Stanley at Fox. Then he did a sunbathe and a snooze. Then he got a massage on the terrace at 5 p.m.
Sounds like a pampered day.
He
Sounds like a
dined
day
at
that I would
home,
do.
and then he read the book Roar, Lucia Dove, which was a play.
I was born on Halloween, so what was Cary Grant doing Halloween of 1958?
Oh yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he like went to parties or if he dressed up.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm a huge fan of the beach, so I love being out in the sun. I love taking a nap.
Okay, so Friday, October 31st, he got up at 7:30. Then he went to stage 5 for the auction gallery scenes of North by Northwest,
Oh, nice.
where he, to get out of being caught by the bad guys, bids on the painting and
That
gets
is
escorted out by police. So that was that
That's-
day.
Such a fun scene that one
So,
is.
Rick, I have a friend, Colleen, who is even a bigger Cary Grant fan because she actually owns also some of his memorabilia, part of a costume of his. And her birthday is November 15th. What was Cary doing November 15th, 1958?
That's just a couple of weeks later. That was a Saturday. So he went to see Dr. Hartman. He has, and it says session number 12. So don't know who Dr. Hartman was, but he saw him a lot in 1958. And then it said called ER for Betsy. The rolls broke down. He snoozed. Betsy goes to Palm Springs, dine in bed, read TV, asleep by 9:30.
So since you're at November 15th, do you mind turning a page back to November 14th? Because that's my birthday, if that's okay.
That was a Friday. He went to stage 16 with Leo Carroll to shoot the hospital room scene. I think that's where Leo Carroll finally tells him what's going on with the plot. Then there's lunch on the set, and then McGuire to set last day. No rushes. And then it says Stanley Donen leaves for New York and London. That was important for him to note for some reason.
Donna Hill is asking for October 19th and October 10th.
Well, October 10th was a Friday. He left for location, low flying sequences, oil truck, and reverse close-ups, quick lunch and location, check out of the Hacienda Bakersfield. So they're just finishing the crop duster scenes and the explosion. Then he took the flight 53 on Pacific Airlines back to LA and a limo home. He sorted his mail. He dined at home and he called to see Babe Klein, whose mother died. Home in bed by 11. And then what was after the October 10th, what was the other day?
October 19th.
The 19th, which is a Sunday. He got up at 7:30. Ray to cook breakfast, whoever Ray is. BB met them for breakfast on the terrace. Betsy joins us. He took a snooze at 3. And Betsy cooks dinner at 7. Then she leaves. And he watched TV and went to bed.
What did he watch on TV? Did it say?
Doesn't say. Sometimes he'll like put Groucho in parentheses, but sometimes, most nights, he just watches TV, but he doesn't say exactly what it is.
So
Lucy wants to know.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to say, Benjamin is asking, did he attend the Oscars on the 26th of March?
March 26th was a Wednesday. It says rehearsal, Academy, Pantages Theater. That's exactly what was going on. Very good.
Which is still there and still beautiful.
Call for Barney Balaban. How funny, we were just talking about them.
Yeah.
And then it says at 7, the Pantages Academy Awards, then the Beverly Hilton Hotel, the ballroom, at the Buddy Adler table. So absolutely, he was there. Very cool.
That's very cool indeed.
We have Lucy asking about August 24th.
Well, I'm getting that old paper smell as I go through all these dates. All right, August 24th was a Sunday. He packed, sunbathed, and then packed some more, got a massage on the terrace. He dined at 6:45. At 7:30, Bill from MGM escorted to airport, TWA Flight 9 to New York. Stanley Fox to see me off, Stanley Kramer on plane. Interesting.
That first class back in the day must have been fascinating.
Can you
Between
imagine?
LA and New York.
Can you imagine?
That would have been amazing to be like a flight attendant on those planes and just the people you would see day in and day out.
You talk about friendly skies.
Very much so.
I mean, with Cary, come on.
Someone's asking for September 17th, please. That is Mandy.
Okay, Mandy. September 17th was a Wednesday. He's in Rapid City, so doing the South Dakota scenes. But he was packing. He took a walk with Rick Ingersoll. He had coffee with Eva Marie. To airport, and he flew a DC-7 back to LA, met by Betsy at 6 p.m., drive home in Rolls. Dine home, bed early. So they just left South Dakota, flew back to LA, and Betsy drove him home in the Rolls.
Eddie Miller is saying that Stanley Fox was his attorney.
Oh, okay, very good.
Bobette is on here, and hi, my fellow polka dot sister. Bobette is February 18th, and she wants to know what Cary Grant was doing that day on her birthday.
Okay, back towards the beginning, February 18th.
No, 8th.
Oh, 8th.
What Cary
Okay.
Grant was doing every day.
February 8th in 1958 was a Saturday. He got up at 9 a.m., went with Betsy to Portobello Road Market, bought a turquoise Mexican necklace, probably for Betsy, had lunch in the hotel, took a nap. He takes a lot of naps. Read scripts, etc. Light dinner in room S. And then coffee at home, to bed at midnight.
So someone had asked about the holidays. So we talked about, can't talk, I don't know why, Halloween, but I was curious about Thanksgiving and Christmas, or like around.
New Year's. I'm interested in New Year's Eve. What did he do for the New Year?
All right, so let's see if I can figure out what day Thanksgiving was. Thursday, November 27th. He got up at 9, sort matters on desk, so he was catching up on his paperwork. At 12:30, he went to Betsy's at 1717 Mandeville Canyon. Betsy cuts finger, goes to the doctor at 7, Thanksgiving dinner with Ray, turkey, home in bed by 10.
Sleepy turkey.
Then let's go to Christmas. So Christmas that year was a Thursday. He got up at noon. Oh, had a shave, took a bath. He puts everything in here. Brunch at the long table, talk all afternoon, so probably made a bunch of phone calls. At 5, he had tea. At 7, he changed dress, go to the Archibald McIndoe's for a dinner party at 8:30. Home, made more phone calls, in bed by 1 a.m. on Christmas Day. Then New Year's, which of course is the last day in this book. That was a Wednesday, December 31st. He got up at 9:30. He had breakfast in his room. He played darts. What? Shop, buy, walk. He bought some walking shoes. He had a drink in a pub. Oh, he went back to London. That's
I was
that.
going to say, it sounds like his old days in Sussex, right?
He drove to Land's End. He had a walk on the rocks and the cliffs and a path. It was windy. He had tea and darts in a bar with Ray. Took a snooze. Then at 7:30, he had drinks in a bar. Met schoolmaster and family. So it sounds like he met some of his youth
From the
connections.
past.
Had a dine in the dining room at 8:30, and then had champagne, 1 a.m. bed.
Danny Miller is saying that Archibald McIndoe was a famous plastic surgeon.
Oh.
I wonder what was up with that? That perfect face did not need any work, so who knows?
No.
Maybe that's how he got there. I don't know.
Karen Hansberry, would you mind doing August 17th? Did you do that one yet?
August 17th. This is kind of fun and fascinating stuff, isn't it? Okay. Sunday, August 17th, he got up at 7:30. He had breakfast with Stanley Donen on the terrace, took a sun bath, talked with Betsy outside. Bill Fry called for him and Betsy. They met at David Selznick's. Wow. They dined there with Spencer and Kate.
That's amazing.
And Betty Bacall, because
Oh, Lord.
Bogart had died like 2 years earlier. Wow. Spencer and Kate H. and Betty Bacall.
Wow.
Man.
Wow.
Oh, Danny Miller is saying McIndoe specialized in burn victims. Maybe they were just friends. He was a big society dude.
Huh.
One of our friends, Julia Ricci, she wants to know about December 26th. Please and thank you.
Your fans are very polite, Cary.
This is by your
Okay.
book, I would be riveted, by the way.
I want to know who your ex-wife is and if she'd be my best friend, please.
Friday, December 26th, got up at 8:45, had breakfast at 9:15, talking. Ray Breen stayed for lunch. Also, the Express editor and another couple arrived. They're going on the voyage. I don't know what that means. They leave to drive back, arrived in London at 5 p.m., dined in the hotel, and to bed at 11:30.
Well, that's Boxing Day, so
Right.
that's kind of a holiday too, since he was back in London at the time.
Yep.
That's what he did on Boxing Day.
Funny how in the year 58, he both begins and ends the year in London.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me wonder if that wasn't a tradition for him. He'd go back and give coins to servants.
Well, it's interesting. The first third of the book, he finishes shooting Indiscreet, and then it details screenings and sneak previews and going back and looping dialogue and then going back and doing pickup shots. I mean, everything is, if someone's doing a book on Indiscreet or on North by Northwest, you need this as a reference.
Yeah. Did you do October 8th for Catherine Bird? She says she was 4 years old then.
Wow. And we can't forget Carrie's birthday, Archie's
It's
birthday.
tomorrow.
Boy, October 8th is sparse. It was a Wednesday. He got up at 7, left for location at 8, had lunch on location. It just says continued shooting. At 8:15, they dined at the Sirloin and Saddle with Ernst Lehman, the screenwriter, Rick Ingersoll and Ray. Then it says walked back to Hacienda and 9:30 in bed. Oh, that was during
Wow.
the week of shooting of the crop duster sequence.
Okay.
Then tomorrow's date?
The next day after this, October 9th?
Well, Cary Grant's birthday,
Is tomorrow.
tomorrow's date. So
Oh,
January
Oh.
19th. Wait, what day is it?
18th. Because it's also our fellow, my triber, Teresa Brown.
That's right. Happy birthday to Teresa Brown, by the way.
Yes, she shares our love of Cary Grant also,
I do.
but she has his birthday.
It seems like there are several people who are really awesome who have that same birthday. I'll have to look it up. But.
so do we want the 18th or the 19th?
Both. Why not?
Okay, Tuesday, oh, that's the 14th. Saturday, January 18th, Betsy gives a Whitman painting. Got up at 9. Ruth Wyman of Life and Sandy Roth to hotel with Ingrid for photographs outside. Went to the park, fed the ducks and the swans, went to Portobello Road, had lunch downstairs with Betsy, coffee and birthday cake upstairs.
Nice.
There you go. Went to location at Belgrave Square, and they dined in the D room, I guess the dining room, with Ingrid and Stanley. And they walked back to the hotel with Betsy, Ray and Rolls following. I guess in case they got tired.
Just like Indiscreet. Just like in Indiscreet, with the rolls following them when they're walking.
That's funny.
What was see, Marie Hankins, she wants September 12th. Her birthday September 12th.
All right. That is a Friday. He awakens at 9:30, breakfasts on the terrace, has a 1-hour sun bath. Dr. Thomas Baird from the Hotel Sherman gives B&B 12 shots and penicillin. Then he drives with Eva Marie Saint out to the North Shore. They have tea at 4:30. At 5:30, a massage. At 7:30, McConnell's Hamburger Place. From 8 to 9, the Pump Room with James Mason. Is that exercise maybe? Then TV and rooms, no dinner. And Sandra Rosen in My Room's coffee. Oh. And to bed at 12:30.
Who's Sandra Rosen? And what was she doing?
Coffee.
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 Is that what we're calling it? Coffee? That's cute.
Yeah, no mention of Betsy.
So
Yeah,
when
kinda-
did Cary start keeping these detailed daily notes? What year do you think?
Well, the earliest one that we saw was 1944, so presumably his whole career.
Why did the wife just throw this stuff out? I mean, didn't she at least have a sense that this was somehow important to the world or his fans or anybody?
She did not have that sense for whatever reason.
You know, Danny Miller was pointing out that the Pump Room was a famous restaurant at the Ambassador East in Chicago, which is where the movie was, partially shot. So
So then they weren't exercising, they were eating from 8 to 9.
I apologize for my dogs.
No, I was wondering who was visiting you in the kitchen.
It's who's visiting the neighborhood because they are always on guard. You know, anyone who walks by is a potential wolf, and we're the sheep. So I'm sorry.
Can you see what Cary was doing on March 20th?
20th. And let me say to all three of you, thanks for letting me crash this party. I knew everybody would love going through this. So I appreciate you letting me join you guys. All right, Thursday, March 20th, it's the servant's day off. It's a cloudy day. He made 2 phone calls to Klein. He went to the smoke tree to ride. So he must have had a horse there that he would ride on occasion. And joining him were the Nivens and Ken and Nancy. At 5, he's home for a bath. And at 7, he dines, Betsy cooks, then to bed.
So some of these celebrities, they cooked for their own, they didn't always have help.
Kind of
Yep,
annoying.
on the servant's day off, Betsy had to make him his dinner.
Danny Miller saying, is his last wife still alive? I believe Barbara is still alive, and I believe she's remarried, if
Oh,
I'm correct. Because she really stays out of, she doesn't want to be invited to stuff. She doesn't really project herself out there. I think Jennifer is more of the standard bearer of who carries the flame, but they have a great relationship, is my understanding also.
Well, Rick, let me ask you this. Did Cary have a will that would have specified where things like this would have gone? I mean, because surely he knew that he was an icon and he was a legend. I mean, he had to have been aware of that. And
oh, I'm positive he had a will. But things like this, people just don't have that sense of history that we do. I mean, obviously, I'm a collector, but to her, it was just clutter. Let's get rid of the clutter now that he doesn't need it anymore.
It's Benjamin is asking, what does his daughter Jennifer do today? And some of us had the pleasure of hearing her speak at the TCM Film Festival. And then a few of us actually had the pleasure of meeting her and getting a picture, which was fabulous. And she's a full-time mom. She does some writing. She has done some acting in the past. If people remember, like the Beverly Hills TV series, the name, I can't remember the name of it. So she did that for a little bit. But pretty much she stays out of the public eye. She has no interest in that right now. And she's focused on raising her children. And we had the opportunity to meet her young son, Benjamin Cary Grant.
Mm.
And he's adorable and very sweet.
And I like the fact that at the Club TCM thing that she did, she was wearing his watch, and she talked about the eyeglass, the glasses line for, what was the company that they did the?
Oliver Peoples.
Is that the name of
the Oliver Peoples is the name of the company that they worked with. They approached them and they were doing the North by Northwest sunglasses.
Yeah. That was so cool.
Yeah. And so several of my tribe have a pair. I'm chomping at the bit.
well, Rick, this has been absolutely incredible. I cannot thank you enough for sharing this treasure with us. And I don't know about the rest of you. I could sit here and listen to 365 days of what Cary Grant did. I really could. Yes, it's just fascinating.
It's been a blast.
And trust me, Rick, if you get a hold of one of those other diaries, we're coming back, man.
And if you need help dumpster diving, I will personally assist you with the dumpster dive.
Tell her I'll clean her, I'll wash her car, vacuum it. Just loan us one of those books. Can you imagine if we could all sit together in a room and do this with that book?
It just shows you the benefit in dumpster diving. I'm just saying.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Rick. And I look forward to when we can all be together again and do this face to face and, you know, share a glass of wine and our love for all these wonderful classic movie stars, and especially Cary Grant.
Well, I thought while the pie's still baking, we could also talk about his films, like which one is your favorite? And there's so many eras and phases of his career, like Betty and Joan. I mean, he had such a decades-long body of work. So it'd be fun to just sit and talk about our favorite Cary Grant films.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my goals this year is to watch all 72 of them. I think I've watched like 40, at least 40 of his films, but there's the early part, I'm missing a lot of the early stuff. So that is my goal for 2021. Since I can't watch it, you know, on the big screen with all of you, I'll watch it and share.
Ruth, do you have a favorite that you can narrow down, or is that just too big of an ask?
It's too much, but I do His Girl Friday. That movie is just fantastic. I don't care what movie genre you're in. I mean, you just can't do that today. I don't see that kind of talent the way they did it. It was riveting. Of course, Bringing Up Baby is always a favorite. Mr. Banning's builds his dream house. You know, Charade and North by Northwest. You know, Every Girl Should Be Married, and I'm still waiting for my Cary Grant.
How about you, Rick? Do you have a favorite you can point to, or is that just too hard?
It is hard because there's 15 or 20 that are 4-star classics.
Oh, yeah.
But North by Northwest it has to be my favorite. I'm a huge Bond fan, and that's the template for so many of the Bond tropes comes right out of that movie. But Gunga Din, he's just so animated and hilarious, and yet the action scenes are great. I love Gunga Din, Charade. It's hard. I will mention one real offbeat one, because let me give my book a quick plug. I did a book on Henry Brandon, who played Barnaby in the Laurel and Hardy Babes in Toyland film, and he was in The Searchers with John Wayne. But he's in one Cary Grant movie from the 30s called Big Brown Eyes, and it's a very strange movie. Cary Grant's terrific in it. Henry's in a few scenes with him, fights with him. Henry's a gangster, but there's like some weird child murdering stuff that goes on that's kind of shocking, and then it shifts into comedy again. So it's very bizarre, but Big Brown Eyes is worth catching to see Henry Brandon and Cary Grant.
Rick, that's one of the 30, the one I haven't seen. That's part of my 172, the Big Brown Eyes.
I thought that they had played it one time on TCM, but I could be wrong. I gotta say it is hard to narrow down. Because he covered not only like these epic classic films that are just perfect in every way, but he did different genres and he did different decades. You know, I am a big fan of The Awful Truth. I think that his chemistry with Irene Dunne was spot on for physical comedy, and I just wish that they had done even more. I mean, obviously, you know, Penny Serenade is like another one too, and then My Favorite Wife. And then one of my favorites of Cary Grant's was not a favorite of Cary Grant's, and that is Arsenic and Old Lace. Now, I love Arsenic and Old Lace, and I don't think of it as being over the top, as Cary Grant said. He was not a fan of his performance or the film per se, although because of the timing, he was able to donate 100% of the proceeds of his salary went towards, you know, the war effort. because there was the hitch with the timing and all of that. And of course, Frank Capra was donating his own timing, his own efforts to the war as well. But I love that film. I just do. And I just think it's charming and quirky. And, you know, I think Cary Grant was too hard on himself because I think it was perfect. And I personally love it. But of course, you know, there's so many. How about you, Cary? Or do you have some favorites, or is it, again, too hard to ask?
It is hard to ask. It so is, because he had so many classics in his body of work. But I think he and Katharine Hepburn are magic together. That is like the peanut butter and chocolate of film. So
Yeah.
I love them and Bringing Up Baby, Holiday, The Philadelphia Story. They were so good together, and I just love watching them.
I always kind of fancied that they'd be together in some way. Because they were perfect together on screen. And I think that they were friends. I feel like they were friends and you know, really liked one another as people. And I'm glad to hear that they were having dinner together with Tracy. And that it's amazing to me. But I'm with you. I think about it, I'm like, yeah, The Awful Truth. Yes. Then I think about the, with Gene Auther and Ronald Coleman.
Talk of the Town.
Talk of the Town.
Yeah.
God, that is. I mean, seriously, you can go any era, you know, until he quit.
And even his early stuff, like with Mae West, I mean, you could tell that this is something that is like, you know, someone to watch, because he's more than a pretty face. And
So I can't believe I forgot I had this. I had to run upstairs and grab it off the wall when you mentioned Arsenic and Old Lace. I have a lobby card from that film.
Oh, and see, Priscilla Lane is so charming and cute, and it's just such a, to me, just hilarious, because it's the dark humor. And obviously it was famous for the play production first. But I love how the film pokes fun of, like, almost breaking fourth wall, if you will, when, oh, look at that face of Cary Grant. You know, when they jokingly talk about Boris Karloff and all of that, like, it's just a charming film. It just
Rick, you are killing me. Never give me your home address, because I could end up being that woman stuck in the chimney trying to scale down to get the Cary Grant picture.
One of my goals when this pandemic is over is to reshoot these in person. So Kelly, get on Southwest. We're going to go and crash in my apartment, drive down to Rick's, do this in person, in real life, bake pie in Rick's kitchen. Hope that's okay, Rick. And that is the goal. It's going to be a vintage dinner party / you know, film history talk show / cooking demo. And yes, that would be amazing.
Come on over.
We love to dress up, so we promise we won't come in all, you know, schlepping in there, all sloppy. We'll come in dressed appropriately for the occasion.
Well, plus, I have a movie room upstairs with theater seating and posters on the walls and a 72-inch screen and with curtains, so we can screen clips in between courses.
We're not roommates, because I don't think we're going to go quietly.
Rick, I'm telling you, not only can I make an apple pie, I make really other good stuff too. So we could be in camp at your place for a while.
Come on.
I'm good at cleaning. I can offer that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Much more out of this than he ever bargained for.
Okay, so does we got Benjamin is commenting on Monkey Business with he and Ginger Rogers.
Oh,
Was that not a fun movie?
And Marilyn.
Oh, yes. Yes. That was really fun.
Gorgeous people. Oh my God.
Yes. And of course, the Philadelphia Story on any day it's on HBO Max on their TCM curator page or site, and I sometimes just turn it on. I just turn it on just to have it on in the background. I'll be in the other room just so I can hear them.
Well, and it's interesting that you know, Cary, Ruth, and I all mentioned both the Philadelphia Story and Bringing Up Baby as like our very earliest introductions to Cary Grant. And, you know, they're classic for a reason. So.
Okay, no one has mentioned this film. What movie is this? Calling Barranca, Calling Barranca. Howard Hawks. Only angels have wings.
Oh, with Rita Hayworth.
A very good impersonation, by the way.
Thank you.
And
And Jean Arthur was in that one too.
Yeah.
his body of work really is staggering.
And it's just interesting how, you know, he did have just the perfect chemistry with so many of his leading ladies and co-stars. You know, obviously, you know, we haven't even really addressed Ingrid Bergman yet too. And wow, like it's just, you know, Kate and Ingrid and Irene.
Well, Joan Fontaine. He and Joan Fontaine is Suspicion. I mean, the emotions that go in that back and forth, you just don't know what to do with yourself.
Well, and that's such a tough one because you're just like, Cary Grant can't be guilty. He can't be a killer. Don't make me think he's a killer.
And if he is, okay, all right, just him though.
Yeah, I love that movie except for the last 3 minutes. I think that's such a cop out. They gave
so too, right?
If he had been the killer, that would have been bold. But
Yes.
they didn't do that.
Hollywood.
I don't think stars have that kind of chemistry with each other in modern movies the way they did back then. I can't think of that many screen duos in the modern era, correct me if I'm wrong, that ignite the way Grant and Hepburn, the way Cary and every co-star he had. I just can't think of any kind of modern day equivalent of that, you know?
Well, and the chemistry was such an effective element because people would honestly think that they were together in real life because the chemistry was so good. Like they were so spot on. And I can't think of anybody today where I'm like, oh, they're probably a real couple. 9 times out of 10, they really are a real couple, and you can't tell. So you're just like, where was that magic on the screen? You didn't see it. You know, it's just different. You know, that's why they're classic. Benjamin mentioned Marlene Dietrich as well, and you know, hotsy totsy for sure. And it's interesting, the ones that you think of, you know, thinking they were probably great pals, you know, offset, and the other ones where, you know, it was smoking hot, you know, passionate, like, you know, how it felt with Sophia Loren. It's just like, oh my God, you know, of course, you know. I'm sure flames were like coming up off the walls and the curtains when they would enter a room. You know, it's like, how I'm picturing it.
At that time, even Peter Sellers, everyone who made a movie with Sophia Loren wanted to marry her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine why. It's like, wow. Yeah. What a life, though. It's amazing.
Does anyone still wonder, I mean, or has any like story about why is it he never got an Oscar? Why isn't that Oscar, he was never able to achieve one for a body of work, or not just a body of work, but a specific film?
You know what my theory on that is, Ruth, is I think he made it look so easy and so effortless. He's one of those stars, this is just my opinion, but it's very easy to take him for granted. You know, if you put a much lesser actor in some of those roles, those movies would not have worked. And I think it's kind of like those figure skaters in the Olympics. They make it look like anybody could just get on that ice and do that stuff, and they make it look so simple. And maybe they thought he was just kind of playing himself.
Which Cary Grant is the first one to have said that, you know, he wishes he was Cary Grant. Like, he is the one who created Cary Grant to begin with. And even within Cary Grant was all these different roles, from, you know, dramatic actor to slapstick comedy to, you know, everything in between. So, like, he's the first one to admit that, yeah, he definitely created Cary Grant, and he wishes he was Cary Grant. he didn't wake up one day and was Cary Grant, really. I mean, he certainly was not born Cary Grant, that's for sure. And I don't mean the name,
Mhm, mhm.
And he
I
was
like
a
how
creation.
Michael Caine.
Rose was a creation, and the tall gentlemen prefer blondes. The still blonde. I mean, it definitely was a very but people. I think one of the problems is they constantly confuse the person with the persona and thought they were one and the same.
And I think sometimes too that some celebrities who do, create a persona about, who they are, and then they go home and they try to just be themselves, but yet people want the persona.
Yeah.
And I think that causes a lot of psychological damage. And like, then who am I real, and do you really like me, or do you like my persona?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check the pie here.
I'm gonna check on
I'm gonna do a pie check. Hold the phone, Rick.
It smells amazing in here.
Oh my God.
No,
Rick, I'm so sorry you're not here to eat some.
Oh,
You
I
guys.
wish I was.
I so wish there was smell-o-vision, because it smells amazing in here. There's nothing better than sugar, butter, and cinnamon melding together.
And I wish we had somehow been able to send every one of our Facebook followers a little scratch and sniff card that we could mail out to them so they could, smell it and talk about pie and Cary Grant.
I might have to negotiate with Danny Miller, something he makes for pie or whatever sauce or I can make that, because Danny Miller's got some goods going on in that kitchen of his.
Talk about a cook. I'm going to talk about showing up at someone's house. I'm going to show up at Danny Miller's house someday, and he and Kendall are just going to have to take me in.
Yeah, and bring your knife and Kelly, bring your knife and fork.
Danny Miller and I are working on more Hollywood Kitchen episodes right now. We had a great time doing the Virginia Wilder's crinkle cookie. And I thought it'd be cool if we could track down Louis B. Mayer's mother's matzo ball soup recipe that they served in the commissary. So I'm asking Danny to try to reach out to the Mayer family and see if he can snag that. And if not, we're going to try to see if we can find it in some other way.
That would be cool.
He's definitely going to be a return guest. He knows that. So yes.
By the way,
Alicia Mayer is kind of like the keeper of the flame, isn't she?
I think Danny's going to contact her. He told me he was going to reach out to her. So I love having return guests, though. It's fun to kind of have the same people come back, and it kind of feels like a friend dropping into your kitchen.
It's like a regular sitting on the Dick Cavett couch, just kind of hanging out, chilling. By the way, speaking of scratch and sniff cards, I would love to see what it would smell like if we had a Cary Grant scratch and sniff card. Like, that would be amazing to smell.
I wonder what cologne he wears. Can someone out there find out what cologne he used to wear, or what cologne was his favorite? Then we can petition whatever company has put it out of business to bring it back.
I'll tell you, Scott Iman's books are so thorough, I'd be surprised if it's not in there somewhere.
Well, I did get Scott's book, and I have not finished it yet. So I'll be curious to see if he talks about a Cary Grant fragrance of choice and what he did, or favorite soap. I'm okay with that too.
The Caswell Massey perfume company, it's been around for eternity. They actually created a custom fragrance for Nazimova in the early 20s called Merim. And my friend Beth told me about this. They recently reissued that fragrance, and you can buy lotion and perfume in Merim. So sometimes before the pandemic, when I go to a silent movie event, I would go and put on my Merim perfume. So that's the reissue of a star fragrance. That is definitely something that if we could figure out what he smelled like, that could possibly happen.
Is that your timer?
That's my timer. I'm going to take my pie out and see how it looks.
I think my dogs know that there's food coming or something.
I just did a quick turnaround of mine to finish some browning, and it looks absolutely amazing. It smells incredible. And I have an eyewitness who will tell you how lovely it smells.
Come out of my room. what was going on besides Cary Grant's cologne.
She
Oh,
actually,
Carrie. Carrie, that looks amazing.
Time.
ooh, Carrie.
Oh, I got it right, y'all. This is great. Oh,
So Colleen is mentioning that green Irish tweed was created for him in the 1980s. So is that a fragrance, green Irish tweed?
It sounds like it could be.
Well, that sounds right up my alley. I'm just saying. This Irish girl wants to know more.
Well, trust me.
so any of us on Facebook or Twitter, throw out your handles on any of your social media. So
I'm Cary Grant Girl on Twitter, and I have the Long Beach, the Silver Screen Long Beach Classic Film Club on Facebook, and I also admin at the Going to the TCM Film Festival site.
and Kelly, where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at IrishJayhawk66. And of course, I'm on Facebook and other platforms. I also help Anne Marie at Classic Movie Hub. And sometimes we do some fun things on YouTube and so forth. And then, of course, you can also find my blog at Outspoken and Freckled, which is a very apt name for me personally. And gosh, I don't know. I'm forgetting something, I'm sure, but you can find me everywhere.
And Rick, what are all of your handles where people can find you and follow you?
Well, I'm not on Twitter, but I have a Facebook group called Green's Pop Culture Sugar Blast, and I post a lot of my collectibles on this site. So Green's Pop Culture Sugar Blast, and remember, there's an E on the end of green.
Okay.
So how are your pies doing, Ruth and Kelly?
Mine is about to come out. I'm about to bring it out, and it looks fabulous, and it smells amazing.
It smells so good in here. I can't even describe it. I think I've got another. I bet I've got another 5 minutes or so.
Okay, well, if you guys can take pictures and post them, that would be awesome. And anybody else out there, if you're baking along with us, feel free to post about what your favorite Cary Grant movie is, and if you made the apple pie too. We would love to see pictures.
I will definitely be taking a picture of mine to show everybody when it comes out. I think it's about ready to come out, so I'm very excited, but I know that we've been on a while, so I don't want to keep people much longer, but this has been so much fun, you guys, and I'm so glad you guys were able to join us out there across the country. I think we've got a lot of people from a lot of different places. Cary, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I can't wait to do it again. I definitely am up to doing it again, and I can't wait until we can do it in person.
Me too. And in a time when we can't physically be together because of the pandemic, it feels like we are together through social media and through Zoom. And this has been like spending a Sunday afternoon with friends. And
For sure.
I'm so grateful to Rick, to Kelly, to Ruth. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank
We
you,
really
everyone.
appreciate it.
It was
I
nice.
loved
meeting
it.
you,
It was a
Rick.
blast.
It was a
You
great.
too,
thank
Kelly and Ruth.
Thank you for your, reading along as we're baking. That's amazing. I think everyone enjoyed the daily journal entries of Cary Grant from 1958. That's amazing. And thank you to all the Facebook followers. I know that everybody loves the show as much as we do. And so Ruth and I were just excited to join Rick and Cary, and always grateful. And Cary, your pie looks amazing. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome.
Yes, it smells good in here, not like smoke like it did Friday. So this is
I thank all of our friends out there, my tribe. I miss all you guys, and I can't wait for all of us to come home to LA together and be back in Hollywood. When I get back, I'll probably run to Larry Edmonds and get my next Cary Grant book and some other goodies that he's holding for me. So I'll be back home soon, and I'll do another catch up, and hopefully We'll be able to see each other in no time.
And this was the best way to start off 2021 Hollywood Kitchen. So thank you so much.
And it's always
Thanks,
good to see my
everyone.
Kelly Pratt. It's always good to see you, girl.
Miss you.
I miss you. I miss you.
I wish you were all in my house right now.
Yes, yes. Look out, Kansas, we're coming.
Hey, you guys are welcome and you know it. Just saying. Stupid pandemic.
Gosh, I almost hate to sign off. This is so fun.
We will do it again, you guys. So this
Yeah.
is just the 1st of May.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Happy birthday, Cary.
Happy birthday, Cary Grant.
Happy birthday, Cary Grant, and happy birthday to Teresa Brown. I know she's watching somewhere.